أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله سبحان الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت عليم حكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي فضل أمري إلى الله بصير بالعباد الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذي أذهب الله عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. I'm just going to... Okay. So welcome to our Quran session, and thank you so much, everyone, for your lovely prayers and concern over the past few weeks that has enabled me to be back here again with Allah's tawfiq and help and mercy. So inshallah, we continue our journey to Surah Fatiha, and we are now on the ayah of the surah where we're talking about Maalik Yawm. And so the beauty of this ayat is that it also holds another name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Maalik. And I want to look into this name because Allah's names are really essential in our journey to Him. The journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is about recognizing Him, knowing Him, finding Him, meeting Him. And since our minds start to question, since the time we're little, we start to question this abstract reality that we don't understand, that we can't see, that we can't fathom with our minds. And we are constantly trying to understand who is this creator, who is this master, who is this nourisher, Rabb, Malik, master, and where is he and how do we understand him. And it's a lifelong, eternal journey of always searching for this mystery and always staying in this journey of inquisitiveness and curiosity. And those who want to delve into this mystery are then called the mystics. So looking into the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes essential to this journey, and Allah has sprinkled His beautiful names all over His beautiful book, the Holy Quran, and of course all of the other scriptures and the Psalms that came before the Holy Quran. Now Allah's names, I just want this to be a reminder for all of us that Allah's names are just a very superficial, a tiny, insignificant percentage of ever being able to know Him. And that's just something because we as human beings are incapable of ever really recognizing and knowing Him. And in this eternal journey, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises in the Quran is that those who will seek Him, then, kulla yawmin huwa fi shan. So every moment He will manifest His beauty. Every moment there will be a new manifestation, a new tajalli that He brings forth for us to experience and see and feel mesmerized by. And the beauty of this material world is that it works with opposites. So in the world of opposites, we are able to recognize light when there is dark. We're able to feel grateful for our health when we fall sick. We're able to find the beauty of night through day and the beauty of day through night. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that in the Quran that He taught Adam the names. And that became something of very great qualification for Hazrat Adam and Banu Adam, and the Adam, the man himself, that he became the Khalifatullah on earth, and his accolade, his badge of honor is the fact that he has been taught the names. So this journey of meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of moving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, entails a very strong and intimate connection with understanding Allah's names, to embark on this journey of Sair was the Luke, of this journey of the ethics of searching and finding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, a lot of times we see Allah's names in the Quran, for example, Al-Mutakabbir, Al-Mudhil, the Avenger, the one who's, Mutakabbir comes from the word Akbar, and it's taken in the terms of pride. And Allah's name Al-Maalik, as in the master. And when we talk to our children, I like to speak about what I hear from children, is because a lot of times children speak our minds, because we are somehow conditioned and put to shame if we question things, and we, maybe in our childhood we were not allowed to question. But when you ask children, they very confidently, they will come up with their questions. So one time I was talking to my daughter, and she felt quite offended by this idea of master and servant, of being master and slave. And she said, I don't want to be anybody's slave, I'm free. And we understand that there is an inner feeling of slavedom that enriches us and absorbs within our hearts, or manifests through an inner journey, which is not something someone can tell you. No one can come and tell you that you are a servant of the Ar-Rahman, you're the servant of the Al-Malik. You just feel like the servant, you just feel like the helpless slave, because of this experience in life, of experiencing his majesty, of experiencing his grandeur, of experiencing his power. And then in situations in life when we really find ourselves helpless and powerless, is when we truly understand our neediness, our humility. It humbles us. And this morning before the class, I was reminded of the mother of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. And while I really connect with Hazrat Musa's story of, being stuck in front of the ocean, and, being captured by the army of Pharaoh, and feeling there was no way, and then saying, no, my God is with me and he'll guide me. That is one of the most profound moments in the Quran that, completely enraptures my heart. But at the same time, today I was reminded of the mother of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly gives his analogy and his tashbih to a mother. And here we see that we can really analyze the dichotomy, the duality of our existence through the mother of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. And what we see is that being this beautiful, pious woman who is giving birth to a prophet, who is receiving these prophecies, we see that her heart is trembling at the idea of letting go of her newly born child. So what we're seeing is a complete picture of fear and faith in one scene, in one moment. And what we're seeing is the human part and the being part of our existence. And being the mother, we are the ones overlooking our children. So we're the masters. And we are the ones who overlook and, take care of their needs. And we kind of steer their lives, just like Maalik, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls himself, he's doing. And we are going to look into this in further detail about how he's managing the universe through the angels, and it's strongly connected with the Malak and the angels. But to continue with the understanding of the mother of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, we see that her heart is filled with fear. And we see that at the same time, she's this beautifully connected soul to Allah's mercy and power and knowledge of God, that she is now giving birth to Hazrat Musa. So we have to understand that there is a very important connection of lineage when it comes to human evolution. And that's why we see that prophethood and imamat, they come in the bloodline of the prophets. It's maintained through a bloodline, because there's a transference of not just physical genetics, but spiritual genetics. And there's a purification and evolution that is happening over these thousands of hundreds of years through generations. And what we see is that, like I was just talking to my daughter yesterday, and I was talking to her and I was telling her that, there is a transference of so many traits through genes and our DNA. And we see that my 2-year-old daughter is much smarter than probably what I was at when I was 2 years old, because of the evolution within one generation. And that's why when I had my first child and then I had my third child 10 years later, I saw a difference in their behaviors, in the way they were, grasping things, in the way they were expressing themselves and manifesting this evolution in their own genetics, because of the time, because of the nature, because of the nurture, and because of this DNA. And so we see that there is a beauty to the mother of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, because of which Allah has chosen her to be the mother of Musa. Now, the moment that I want to bring to our imagination here is the moment when Allah tells her that we are overlooking, we will reunite, and that moment is the moment of faith. That moment is the conversation of ilham, that's the moment of conversations of Allah's inspiration within our hearts, which is available to all of us in moments of difficulty, in moments of fear. While there is a nagging voice of fear where it's, catastrophic and it's like an apocalypse, and, we can imagine the worst, but there's also this part of us which is light, which is nafakhtuhu fihi min ruhi. My spirit has been breathed into you. Who am I? I am the ever living, the all powerful, the all knowing, the all wise. And that spirit within us gives us inspiration. I was listening to this motivational speaker, Simon Senk. He's a really inspiring speaker, and he was talking about how to develop strength and how to grow and something like that. And he pointed to something, and he said that we need to be connected to the right people, and we need to have a circle of people so that we can feel like we are supported, so that we don't feel like, nobody's got my back. And he said that, when we are trailing off and we're giving up, then our circle of people, it holds us and supports us. But I didn't seem to agree. Maybe later on I will. But in my heart, there's a truth that I feel that even a single human being is not alone. And while there is an importance to having the right circle and the right kind of people in your life, and definitely they are also sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our lives to support us. And I personally have come to a point where I believe Allah has created a circle in my life where I feel extremely grateful for the people who support and love and, give me that hope. But at the same time, Allah says there are ahadith, and so many ahadith which say that a believer will always find themselves alone. And that's because every human being's journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a lonely journey. It's a tawheedi journey. It's a journey of oneness. My personal journey with that one God is going to be a unique journey. And while we will have a lot of people who can understand us because they've been in the same journey and they have had experiences similar to ours, there will be times when we will find ourselves alone. And what Simon was saying was that, well, you know, people will inspire you. People will inspire you, and you will feel like you can get back on your feet. But reading so much of Dr. Wayne Dyer, he uses the word inspire, and he says that the word inspire comes from in spirit. And the reason it's important to understand this inspiration coming from in spirit is to understand that that breath of God that has been, that spirit of God that has been breathed into us is the place of inspiration. In spirit is where the speech of God comes to us. It speaks to us. It's there with us. It's always with us, and it never leaves us. And even if we're alone, I think of the brave warriors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who, stood up for truth, and they were imprisoned. People who had visions and they were in vision, people who spoke their truth and they were imprisoned and not accepted. We look at Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salam, and we see that he was imprisoned, and he said, well, this is such a good opportunity for me to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We see that what must it be like to be completely isolated and to have no human around you to support you and to make you feel like there's another day. And we see again, the example of Nelson Mandela and how through constriction he finds expansion. And so the point here is that whether there is any outer human circle or not, there is an inner circle of love and support and comfort within all of us, which is what we see with Hazrat Musa's mother. And she is finding that peace in the moment of fear. And despite the fact that she is in this noble place of being connected so strongly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she's still in a state of fear. And so the human heart is a place of fear and hope, right? We see it in the hadith that if you were to open the heart of a believer, you'd find equal levels of fear and hope. And a lot of times when that heart keeps growing, that fear transforms into another kind of fear, which is awe of the majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then this inspiration and this word of God within our hearts is constantly our companion and guide in moments when the whisperings of the shaitan get too much, when the whisperings of the negative thought, overtake us. We need to take a pause and just go and look for that inspiration in our spirit and say, well, I have a choice in this moment to either let all of this negativity overcome me and overtake me in this particular moment, or I have a choice of looking at the positive. And this is where I want to bring in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Maalik. I'm going to read a little bit from this book, Physicians of the Heart. And it's really beautiful, and then I will explain a little bit on this. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The quality of Al-Maalik is to hold everything in the universe in the hands of the one and only being. It is an all-inclusive and majestic embrace. The word of angel Malak is closely related to the name of each and every, to the name angels, to this name. Angels are made of light and are held in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The light of Al-Malik holds the inner essence of each and everything. Each thing's essence never leaves this majestic embrace and never returns to it because it is permanently rooted in it. Ya Malik, thus experienced as holding everything's essence in the inner world, is naturally paired in repetition with Ya Malik al-Mulk, the majestic force that holds all outer forms. So over here, I want to talk about a very close experience I had in the past 2 weeks, that because of COVID, I lost my sense of taste and smell. And I want to share this because it came as a very deep realization and how Allah teaches us through all these experiences, right? And I was also in a class getting some coaching, marriage coaching, and these things that I keep doing. And we came to this place where we realized that we can have two absolutely gorgeous looking spouses with all the money in the world and all the facilities and everything, but it is Allah who puts the mahabbat and the rahmah in their hearts, right? So the outer can be as perfect as it looks, but the beauty and in that reality of existence can only come through an inner essence. The inner essence that holds the sweetness in the food, the inner essence that holds the taste in our food. Now, the reason I was talking about the food and I went on to the spouse example, it's so connected because on the outside something looks perfect, but do they really hold their reality without Allah's interference, without Allah's will and his decree? So on the outside, a couple can look completely perfect, but who's going to put that real attraction and love in their hearts is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The essence is in his hands. In the same way, the food, and I couldn't taste the food. And, initially when I was eating and, people were asking me, how's your taste? And I said, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. And gradually the taste started going. And initially I didn't realize that my taste is going. So I started feeling upset at the person who was cooking. And I'm thinking, well, what's up with the cook? Like I'm not feeling well. And now she has to cook food which tastes like it has no taste. And then I said, you know what? Hold on, take a pause. What's going on? And I realized that my taste was going and my smell was going. And I realized that it is Allah who has really put in that taste in my mouth, which makes the taste on the outside real. The food on the outside had salt and sugar and all sorts of flavors, but I couldn't experience it because of that inner essence inside the human soul that experiences life. I couldn't do it because no matter what the doctors want to do with the taste buds, no matter what the doctors feel that should be done with the sense of smell and tongue and whatever, but the inner cause is always Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the inner cause. Now I want to bring in over here something that I studied in philosophy in the works of Imam Ghazali. And he was a theologian, and he was a very grand scholar. And the beauty of his life is, which I can so relate to, is that Imam Ghazali spent a huge part of his life. Initially, he was very young. He was in his 30s when he became the sheikh of a very big Darul Uloom. And he was proficient in kalam and in theology and fiqh and all those things. And then he suddenly had this feeling of stagnation, that whatever knowledge he had on the outside was not really reaping him that connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he left everything and he denounced everything, and he went on, I think, if I'm not wrong, a 14-year journey of going and finding himself. If I'm wrong, then I'll correct it in the next class. But he left everything. He was very careful to take care of maintaining his family. So he would send the maintenance and the whatever the needs of his family were, but he took off. Reason being that he became such a giant figure in the work that he was doing, that he knew that to find a real taste of truth, he has to move away from this society and this name and fame and people who kind of hover around you to please you and all of that. So he completely disassociated himself from the known to a completely unknown way of doing life, and trying to find his connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whenever we study the life of Imam Ghazali, it's always divided into two phases. the first phase where he was, he didn't have a connection to Sufism, and then the second phase where he connected to a lot of Sufis and found a different path. And what we see in Imam Ghazali's work is that he had he studied philosophy, and he felt like people who were into philosophy were not getting it right, so he gave his own point of view. And one of the very profound points that he gave, which I would like to share with you, is the talk on cause and effect. And in mysticism, in philosophy, there's a lot of talk on cause and effect, that who is the real cause of existence, and what does that cause hold in its qualities, and what is the effect, and human beings are the effect of that cause, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the necessary cause. He's the wajibul wujud, the necessary cause. And so there are all these debates that happen in philosophy. Now, Imam Ghazali touched upon a point which I found so profound, and that we can apply in our daily lives and really transform our lives. He said that while the outer world looks like it's made up of all these causes, and while we see that when the sun comes out, the day happens, and after night, the day comes, there is really no guarantee today that tomorrow the sun will come out. There is really no guarantee that if I sow a seed, it's going to grow. Even though I do know the causes, I do know that if I sow a seed, that I am going to water it, and there'll be sunlight, and there'll be air, and then, with the right conditions, it's going to grow. And so I give it the right causes, and so I see the effect. However, what is the guarantee? There is no guarantee, because the guarantee only lies with the Creator, with God. And so what Imam Ghazali was trying to express is that while all of this talk on cause and effect is happening, and we're talking about, the laws of nature, and a scientist would take cause and effects very seriously, because they believe in the law of gravity, and the law of this, and the law of that. And so within the jurisdiction of these laws, we see cause and effects work very meticulously. However, in the Quran, we see that, if you take the example of fire, if there is fire, then there is burning, then there is heat. So it's a very direct cause and effect. However, Hazrat Ibrahim is not burnt with this fire. There is no heat in this fire. What happened there? So it's breaking that law of the cause and effect. So in that sense, Allah's power and His majesty and His Malikul Mulk becomes even more, awe-inspiring when we see these miracles. And these miracles become a way for us to realize that, wait a second, we are not really, in a world of complete cause and effect, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can always intervene, and He can always intercede, and He can always change how this cause and effect looks. And so while, the whole world can say, well, this is the last stage of your disease, and, it won't be cured, and all the doctors have given up, we cannot, by default, in our belief in the majesty and the intervening of Allah's power, let go of His interference in this cause and effect. Now, a lot of us experience this. A lot of us experience this being caught in the cause and effect. We feel trapped in this cause and effect. We don't see Allah intervening at times. And we don't understand why Allah is not intervening in so many situations. And so right now, where the world is in such a difficult space of, we're hearing of obituaries every day, and, people unwell, and there is so much sickness and pain, and, there's this turbulence in the world, because, we have believed in this cause and effect, and now we are in a place of helplessness. We are unable to control, like we're control freaks, and we're not able to control, and situations are feeling like out of control. So now we're spiraling out emotionally. Emotionally, we're feeling depressed and hopeless, and we are unable to have that kind of light a lot of times, and we wake up feeling quite sad and heavy and upset. So just on a different tangent, um, a lot of us are absorbing and feeling the collective energy of the planet, okay? Because we're all connected, we're all part of the same life force. The life force within you is a life force within me. The energy in you is the energy within me. We are all connected like water, the ocean. Every drop is connected and there's no separation, and the ripples that happen in one part of the water will affect thousands of miles away. The effect is there of that ripple, and therefore all of us are connected, and whatever pain one part of the earth is feeling or one family is feeling, we are all getting affected by it. So it's a collective journey, we're all in it together. And therefore, when there is so much pain and so much hurt in the world today right now, because our general idea of stability has been disturbed. Our regular casual ideas of stability and goodness and what perfection looks like has been disturbed. So there is a lot of emotional pain, and with these kinds of sittings and contemplations and reflections, we can create that energy, that we can find that light within us that can also be a ripple effect in the world. So each one of us staying in our positive space and positive light is also affecting and helping and changing the world, one person at a time, because we're all the ripples in that ocean. So now, with that cause and effect, what Imam Ghazali said is that there is a power higher and far above this cause and effect who can intervene and intercede. And therefore, while there is a natural cause and effect to the world, there is an understanding that there is a higher power that is maintaining the physical cause and effect of life, and that higher power can, at its own wisdom and will, intervene and intercede. Now, Dr. Wayne Dyer, he speaks about the power of belief, and he says that when we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we say yes, we don't ask how. We just say yes, we don't ask how. And in the most trying of situations, in the most bleak situations, what we need to do is we really need to understand that the Maalik is the real power here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Maalik. So while I was explaining to you, right, that our kids will feel uncomfortable with the idea of being a slave, and while there's this understanding and this idea, well, why do I have to be a slave, and why don't I have the freedom, and why would Allah do this, and am I just a puppet in his hands? While there's a way of looking at it that way, there's also this completely flip way of looking at it, which is saying, well, if he is my Malik, and because he's all wise, and because he's all loving, and because he's all merciful, the turbulence that I'm seeing outside, the complete breakdown of my sanity right now, there is good in this because it is in his hands. So recently we were in a session where we had to discuss our, issues and problems, and we were in a coaching session, and one of the ladies brought up this issue with being indecisive. And one of the reasons for being indecisive in our everyday life or taking decisions comes from the fear of the outcome, the fear of what is the outcome going to be. And so if we are fearful about the outcome, we resist taking a decision because we, number one, have to take a responsibility now and say, oh my God, it's my decision. And what if I mess up? And then I'll have to, completely take responsibility for everything that goes wrong. And the other thing is that things will go wrong because I'm unable to foresee what's going to happen. And, my decisions can have consequences and all of that. Now, when we understand the beauty and the essence of Al-Malik, then we realize that taking decisions becomes easy. Number one, why? Number one, I'm not the Malik. I think I'm taking the decision, but I'm not really taking that decision. A lot of times we'll plan things. A lot of times we will, sign off agreements. A lot of times we will, do our own planning, and then Allah plans. And then sometimes they go through and sometimes they don't. And sometimes they take the shape and, direction that is completely bizarre and doesn't make sense. And we just throw our hands in the air and say, well, okay, God, I surrender. And then it just completely takes a completely different route, right? So Al-Malik is the real one. He is the real one who is handling our affairs. And if it is in his will, things will go through. If it is not in his will, things will not go through. In the end, he is holding that power. The other thing is biyadikal khair. Everything in his hands is good. In his hands, everything is good. So, but everything is in his hands, right? Everything in his hands is good, but everything is in his hands. So if everything is in his hands and if everything in his hands is good, then whatever turmoil and turbulence and catastrophe I'm seeing outside, there is still some good in it because it is in his hand. I just can't perceive that goodness right now because of my physical attachment to this material world. Because I don't realize that this world is just a bridge. And when I will wake up in that life, I will look back and say it was a day or less than a day. Because I'm so attached to this physical life, I forget that everything happening in this life is preparing me, is making me grow for my real life, for the life which really matters. And so the turbulence and the difficulties I'm seeing in this life is just a test that I have received in, for example, they say that we made a promise before we came here to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a lot of scholars believe that we chose what we wanted as an outcome of this life. And some scholars believe that we made a promise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, I want to go to this earthly life because I want to come out of this experience as, for example, a forgiving person. I want to come out as a loving person. I want to come out of this life as a generous person. So to be able to be generous, you will go through times in your life where the means and the abundance will be so tight, and still, Allah is saying in the Quran that these are the people who will do infaq, they will give in times of abundance and in times of lack, when there is less. And so Allah will put you in that place. So you learn to be generous within your heart, and you can overcome the outer tightness, the outer contractions of abundance or means. If we took a promise to be a forgiving person through this life experience, then Allah will put us in situations which are difficult to forgive, so that I learn to be that great person who forgives. And so in that way, it's as if I decided to enter a law school, for example. I said I want to be a lawyer, right? I enter a law school and then I get a test. And the test is all about law. And the test is all about these difficult, constitutions and all of that. And I look at my exam paper and I say, this is so difficult. Why am I getting this test? It's so difficult. I can't take this test. I can't do this. Why is my teacher giving me this test? And the teacher will be like, you chose this university and you came to this place and you decided to be a lawyer. So you get a test in law. I can't give you a test in art. I can't give you a test like that other person. I can't give you a test like the person who is in grade 5, because you're in college now and you need to take a test in law degree. So each one of us have taken these decisions, and each one of us have come into this life with a promise to be someone, not do something. You see, there's a difference between being and doing. The human life gets stuck in doing all the time, that I need to do something. I need to get somewhere. I need to find something. But the inner soul's journey is all about becoming something through the outer experience. So is the outer experience going to make me bitter, or is the outer experience going to make me surrender and make me softer? Is it going to harden my heart, or is it going to make my heart softer? So when we come to this place of seeing life in turbulence, and we realize that if everything is in Allah's hands, and if everything in Allah's hands is good, then we have to understand that there is only few things that are in our control. While He is the Maalik and He's controlling everything, and He's taking my life in the place and in the journey that it needs to go. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Ya ayyuhal insan, innaka kadihan kadhan famulaqi. You are all laboriously striving towards meeting me, and you will for sure meet me. He's made that promise. None of us are not going to meet Him. So if this journey is in His hands and He's the Malik, then what is my power here? What is my free will here? What am I doing here? And really, the mystics and the ulama, they tell us that in reality, my journey in this life is to really do two things. Either I can be in a state of shakura or kafura. That's the only power I have. While the outer can be anything that it seems like, my real power lies in my inner state. And that is why we see the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and we see that he lost so many children, right? His children, so many of them, they'd be born and they'd die. And then the whole tribe was mocking this situation. I personally recently came across, so they were mocking the Holy Prophet, saying that you're a bad omen and, good luck doesn't come to you. They talk like that, right? When we see somebody go through so many trials. We see that Hazrat Ayub was ostracized because of his disease. And they said, well, you're bringing a bad omen. Why are so many calamities coming to you? And then I recently came across a really good friend. She's from the Christian faith, and she was from a very conservative background. And she said that her journey, and she's extremely spiritual, very young, but very spiritual, very deeply connected. And she said that her journey was that she used to stay very sick as a child all the time. And because she used to stay sick, the orthodox mindset in the community created this thing about her that, this girl is of bad omen. And they just treated her like a bad omen in the community. And they just treated her like this, like a bad presence, a negative presence. And as a child to go through that, as a child to experience this feeling of being condemned and being doomed by the community, and what I see, and right now she's this beautiful young lady who is a minister in a church. She's into mysticism. Her work is phenomenal. She's like a light for the people around her. How did that happen? How did that happen that the outer constriction and the physical disease led for this woman to be this beautiful human being who is a light for other people at such a young age today? She's a mystic. So this is where our power lies, moment to moment. And, I was, we go into these self-doubts at times, and like, God, what am I doing? Am I saying the same stuff in every class? And, all of that anyway. And I feel like for me, myself, this idea of holding on to Allah's hope, Allah's rope, Allah's light is a message that I have to remind myself every minute, every moment. And so Allah says that, we are insan. It comes from the word nisyan. We keep forgetting. And what do we forget? And what do we need to be reminded? This message of constantly being connected to our source. This message of constantly remembering that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying all good is from me and evil is from you. So evil is from me? No, Allah is saying everything is in my hands. So everything is good. But if you think there is evil, then that's just your perception. That's just the way, the lens through which you're looking at the turmoil in the world. People who go through pain are the softest people in their hearts. People who go through pain are the people who can be there for other people. People who go through pain can find the empathy for another person. And I personally went through an experience recently where I had this profound experience where I felt like a painful situation enabled me to forgive someone, because all this time I felt like, when someone is not doing so well, or they're making a mistake, or in my point of view the way they're doing life doesn't make sense, then not knowingly, even though I try, as a human being we have these egos, I'm looking at this person and saying, how silly is that? Why can't this person understand? Why are they doing life like this? It's so ridiculous. Like, in our minds we have this dialogue going, and oh, come on, like, who does this? And then I went through a situation where I felt so helpless, and on the outside my situation would look careless. My situation would look um unplanned. But I know that I felt helpless in that situation. And Allah humbled me. And through that humility, Allah inspired me to realize that so many other people are in situations where they are feeling helpless, and we judge that situation. We judge the way they do life. We judge the way they handle situations. We judge the way they understand things, and then we say, this is so lame, this is so ridiculous, why would somebody do that? And then, and we do that because their actions affect us, especially close relatives. Their actions are affecting us, and because their actions are affecting us, we judge them, we find ways to blame them, we find ways to distract ourselves from our pain by putting it on them and saying, because they didn't do it right, I'm suffering. Because they didn't take the right steps, now it's affecting my life. And we don't realize that really Maalik is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of these people in our lives, no matter what they do, they could not have done what they are doing unless there was Allah's will in it. And when these situations get difficult and painful for us, can we, for a moment, remember that they are giving me this experience because I have asked for this in my soul's journey and test. They are just being the wasila. They're just being this intermediary from my Allah, who loves me, who is all wise, who is all caring and loving and powerful. He has put this person in my life, and this person is giving me this particular experience so that I can go within myself, so that this person can stir something within me. They can bring out an emotion that needs to be released. They can bring out my own shortcomings and lacks. They can be a mirror to my inabilities to see a lot that I need to work on, and then give shukr for it. Give shukr for it and say, Allah, thank you that you did not leave these affairs for my afterlife, and you have brought it to my attention here. And that is the veil. The veil is this. The veils that we so pray all the time, that Allah remove the veils so that I can see you, remove the veils so I can see you. The veil is this, that we start to see the cause as the cause. We start to see the relative, as the relative hurting us. And it's not. These causes are not the real causes. They have been put in place by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our journey and our growth, so that we can reach that higher, loftier place of, godliness where we can let go and we can really see Allah in this. So that I always think of the word symbols and archetypes, that everything around us is a symbol which is pointing to a higher reality, which is pointing to the archetype of it, the inner essence that lies beyond this symbol. This person is just a symbol. This person is just a symbol of something that I need to work on, just a mirror of something that I need to work on in my soul. And that is why if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had kept the power of my journey in the hands of other people, that, somebody was unfair to me and that's why I've become bitter, somebody was mean to me and that's why I use bad language, somebody triggered me and so I'm angry, that would be a very unfair world, because that would mean that I don't get to decide my destiny of, having a heavenly state of mind and heart and abode in the hereafter. I'll end up in a hellish space of anger, jealousy, resentment, disturbance, just because other people were poking me and pushing me and making it impossible for me to be a good person. So Allah has not kept the power in the outer reality. Allah has kept all the power within me. And what is my power? I always have the power to go into that spirit. I always have the power to understand that my Maalik is holding the outside space. Whatever turmoil and disturbance I'm seeing on the outside, there is good in that. And I'm going to keep husnil and billah. I'm going to keep a good opinion of God. And I have the choice of either being in a state of shakura or kafura. So I choose shakura. I choose to be shakur. I choose to be the one who's grateful. And I want to end today with a beautiful quote from Maya Angelou. And, I often quote this when she was talking to Oprah. And Oprah was going through a turbulent time and she was crying profusely. And Maya said, just stop this crying. And Oprah said, why? And Maya said, because there's a rainbow behind this dark cloud. And I want you to be grateful for that rainbow right now, even before you've seen it, because it's there. And that's how we can be the creators of our destiny, not really on the outside. We surrender on the outside. We give it to the Maalik. We give it to him and we say, Allah, the outside I give to you, but on the inside, I will focus on the rainbow. I will focus on the fact of this good opinion and belief that Musa held. He said, قَالَ كَلَّا مَعِيَ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينِ, that no, I'm not alone. My God is with me. And he didn't say good things are coming, and he didn't say everything's going to be sunshine. He said, my Lord will guide me. And I think as human beings, our biggest fear is usually this fear of messing up, of taking the wrong step, of ending up at the wrong place, and when everything is in the hands of God, biyadikal khair, and if he is the one who's guiding me, then I can surrender and just chill and relax, and just know that my Maalik is holding everything. So yes, on the outside things are looking completely chaotic, but on the inside, I know that I'm going to trust my Maalik. So I end our talk here, and I'm going to make a dua, and then I will stop the recording to open the floor for questions. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. O Allah, we come to you as your needy servants. We come to you with this neediness that we feel within our hearts that brings fear in our hearts. This neediness that makes us feel so small and so insignificant, Ya Allah, it scares us. We feel powerless in the face of calamities and decisions and situations, and we don't know where to go and who to talk, but we know we can always come to you. And you are with us even if we forget. So Ya Allah, sometimes when we forget, you come to me. And sometimes when I'm lost, you find me, Ya Allah. And sometimes when I'm unable to even take that first step, you enable me to take that first step. And then you promise that you will run to us. So Allah, run to us. Oh Allah, have mercy on our inabilities and our distractions and the nature of our helplessness, Ya Allah. We come to you in utter helplessness and neediness. O Allah, fill our hearts with light and hope like you fill the heart of Hazrat Musa, his mother, and how you brought her to faith, and how you showed her light, and how you miraculously united her with her son. O Allah, bring peace to our hearts and give us that surrender and salamti and that tranquility that you give to your special friends, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, don't leave us. Oh Allah, don't leave us to ourselves and our whims and our own selves. We only rely on you, and we know that you're taking care of us. You are that loving mother who doesn't leave us even if we leave your side and we think we're away from you. Oh Allah, bring healing to this world that is suffering and it's in pain. Oh Allah, make us a means of light and hope and healing for everyone around us. Oh Allah, forgive our shortcomings and bring us closer to you. And oh Allah, enable us to always be aligned with an intention which is always, always focused on coming closer to you and nothing but you. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of your Savior. Please, can I ask all of you to please recite a Surah Fatiha for those who have left us, and for those who are suffering, and for those who are fighting for their lives in so many hospitals right now. Please, let's pray a Fatiha and then we'll open the floor for questions. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Maliki Yawm Deen Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een Ihdinas siratal mustaqim صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Oh Allah, with the wasila of Surah Fatiha, the opener, open the doors of healing and mercy for all of us. Ilahi Ameen.